Welcome back to Two Gals in a Glass Half Full. Today we are talking about one of my favorite topics. It's about sleep. How can you get better sleep? Why are we having trouble sleeping? It's such an important topic, and we have a really special guest on today that's going to give us a lot of knowledge. But before we get started, Dr. Jess, what is in your glass?
So this morning, I'm almost through my cup of coffee. There's a little bit left, low acidic bean with some half and half. So trying to get this day going. So Dr. Bobbie, what's in your glass?
I'm having some water, starting the day with just getting some good water in.
I like it. And with us today, we've got Tom Coleman, and we've got a special guest, and he's going to tell us a little bit about himself. But before that, Tom, what's in your glass?
I have some yerba mate in my glass, so I'm a big fan of yerba mate.
Yes. Oh, I love that too. I used to drink that a good bit when I lived in South America. So Tom, tell us a little bit about you. Like, what's your background?
Sure. My background is health science and physiology, and I qualified maybe 16 years ago. And I kind of had a keen interest in nutrition at the time. And I set up a little business with a chef, and it was like a nutritional consultancy. And from that, I got to work with professional athletes. And I asked a question. I became obsessed really with this one thing, recovery. What has the biggest impact on recovery? How can we accelerate recovery? And I looked at many areas from psychology to aspects of physiology. And the answer came back to me that sleep was this, magic bullet. And I became then obsessed with sleep. And I contacted a company in the US called Fatigue Science. And they use really modern tech, the gold standard of wearable tech, to analyze sleep patterns with professional athletes and those people in high risk jobs. So I worked with their technology, and from that, it was about 10 years ago, I've been involved in sleep ever since.
That's awesome. It's a topic to me as I learned more and more and realize how important sleep is just for our body, our health, and it goes beyond like our physical health, our mental health, how it all ties together. It just really amazes me how something sometimes we don't put much value on, is really truly important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good kind of starting point, is putting value on it. I am from the west of Ireland, and when I was growing up, the first two things that were said about somebody were how hard they worked and what time they got up in the morning. Like, that person is up at 5:30 in the morning. It's like this badge of honor. Like, the harder I work and the less I sleep almost. Sleep is the opposite to activity, isn't it, really? So it can be kind of frowned upon. But we kind of look at like, what's the biggest return on investment when it comes to performance, recovery, health, and sleep comes up with all those things.
Absolutely. So why do you think it's been undervalued? I mean, if we have this fantastic return on the investment of time, right? It's our
Mm.
personal time that we're giving to spend towards sleeping in our day. Where do you think that disconnect happened?
Like, there's a lot of people out there. If we look at, maybe some of the kind of high-powered executives, you got people like Maggie Thatcher as well, who kind of, slept for 3 hours. Sleep is a waste of time, this kind of thing. It's all about productivity. It's all about performance. It's all about working harder. But now we've come to realize that it's about working smarter. It's about, as Steve Redgrave, the five-time Olympian, said, what makes the boat, does it make the boat go faster? That was the one kind of thing that no matter what people came to him with, he put it through that filter. So people ask me about sleep and does it affect this? Does it impact this? And the simple answer is that it impacts every aspect of your physical and psychological well-being. And there's enough data and research to kind of back that up now. So the narrative has changed now, and we're starting to see that in huge groups of people, from the executives to the high performing athletes, to the menopausal women, to the children.
Mhm. I can tell you in my
I
life, it's gotten taught me
The
tremendously.
value of sleep.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
Well, I didn't used to value sleep at all. Like when I was in undergrad, I mean, I just would like pull an all-nighter, like finish a paper. Like it was like it felt like garbage the next day. And then I would do
Yeah.
it again like a month later. Like um it took me a bit to really start to understand like how can I actually like feel good every day and not feel good some days. And for
Mm.
me, the answer honestly was like really improving the consistency of my sleep and the quality of my sleep.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
have
It is.
a, I was gonna say I have now a 14-month-old, and I will say about not even a month ago, she started. There was one day where my mom took her to Iowa. I got 6 hours in a row of sleep, probably the first time that I've had that
Mm.
since she was born. I felt like a new person the next day. I got so much done that next day. I felt amazing. And it was like, and that was only 6 hours of sleep, you know? And so this last month, she's been sleeping better. And it's amazing how I didn't realize how much I wasn't getting, that
Mm.
first 14 months, 13 months, and how much it was impacting me now that I'm starting to get it again and I'm starting to get longer hours and stretches of sleep, back to not normal yet, but back to where I feel a little bit more
Yeah.
functional. I realized just how deprived of it I was. And um, I'd get hard on myself because I wouldn't get this done. I wouldn't get this done. I didn't work out. I didn't feel good, but I was exhausted.
Mm. Yeah. No, absolutely. I think I do encounter many mothers, especially with this guilt, because they don't feel as though they're getting everything done. They're spinning plates, they're trying to work, look after children, self-care, all that stuff goes kind of out the window, So it is very difficult. And then they give themselves a hard time on top of that. So guilt is a huge thing that it's one of the first things you kind of give yourself a break, be patient, be kind.
That's
Yeah.
the learning curve right there, right? Like be patient and kind with yourself, not with just those around you. Um, so working with sleep, right? And in this day and age, it seems like technology is something that could be helpful. And so how have you been able to see the influence of technology with, influencing our sleep and waking habits and everything that goes into it?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a difficult one because technology, we have become hyper connected now. Um, we have become connected to our work, to our social circles, to our friends, and there are many advantages to technology, but I see people who can't switch off. We've navigated through COVID as well, so we have people who have a very different maybe work landscape, maybe a hybrid model of working, which involves them being more connected to their emails, to their work. Um, if we look at the data in terms of screen time, I suppose it depends on what we're doing on the screens, right? And that is important to say, especially for the younger cohorts, for the children, for the adolescents. It's hugely powerful, hugely impactful. The social connection we're connected to social media networks, but we're not connecting in person. I feel as though we've removed ourselves from the things that protect our health as humans, and that's each other and nature, getting outside. So I mean, it's one of the first key things I kind of talk to people about is the technology piece and how connected are you, and do you have the boundaries set in place there that your priority is sleep and it's not mindless scrolling. People seem to mistake distraction for and comfort for relaxation. People tell me I'm on the couch relaxing and they're scrolling, watching video. No, you're not relaxing, because if I do a relaxation exercise with you, you'll feel emotionally and cognitively calm. But the scrolling on the social media is not. It's alerting to the mind. It's distracting. We seek comfort. We seek distraction away from our busy, demanding lives now. But we have to, I suppose, look at it in a very honest way, and question what we're consuming. Food, technology, social media. We have to question our consumption here, people.
It's amazing how quickly you can, just go on for one quick thing to look at one thing.
Mm.
Um, And next thing you know, it's 20, 30, 45, minutes later, and you're still sitting there scrolling. I personally have put blocks on mine that alerts me after a certain amount of time,
Yes.
to kind of get off. And I'm doing pretty good about not hitting it. But when I do hit it, it's like, oh my gosh, like I've already been on that long, or, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's incredibly addictive. Yeah, it's designed to be that way. It's designed to tap into the most powerful reward pathway in human evolution. So it's no wonder it's hard to get off, right? It's been designed by experts, by neuroscientists. They know what they're doing. So yeah, tough. It is tough.
But I do think it's part of the conversation, right? Is the technology piece and addressing what that is doing and how to put the boundaries in place. There's a lot of things on phones now to be able to help with that. And just the awareness of it, I think, is
Mm,
helpful too. But it also seems like stress is something that is part of it as well. So,
yeah.
like, and modern day stress is different than stress that was in the past. So, how, from your perspective, does modern day stress affect our sleep?
Yeah, really good point. So this is, again, something I speak about. We can't talk about sleep without talking about stress because the very same systems that control stress control sleep. It's as simple as that. So it has changed. I mean, if I wanted to eat berries for breakfast and have some chicken, I would have to go out and pick those berries in the past, and I would have to chase down that chicken and, skin them and cook them up and do all that. So we had a physically demanding environment. We were hungry, we were cold, we wanted food, we had to hunt our food. We were hunter-gatherers, and we had to build our shelters. So a lot has changed in a few hundred years, and we no longer have the physical stressors. We have the psychogenic stressors. We have found so many ways to drive ourselves up on that stress level, to overstimulate. I see it like this. I see it from my 10 years involved in sleep that we have removed the demands of the body. Okay. We're not using our body for its intended purpose. So I'm not designed to sit all day and design programs and drive and sit. And I'm designed to push, to pull, to scavenge, to push through bushes. That's what I'm designed for, to lift heavy things, right? To do those things. So the body, we're not using for its intended purpose. The nervous system is completely overstimulated in the wrong way. So we've got the psychological stress. One email from a certain person or a certain family member, yeah, I'm going to tell them. I'm going to give them a piece of my mind, right? Driving through traffic. Oh my God. You can get someone cut you off, all that type of stuff. So the mind is over, or the nervous system is overstimulated, and the mind is we have this racing mind because of what the society and culture we've created. We have a mind that's unable to switch off or be bored for 5 seconds. Can't be bored if I've got 5 seconds spare. I'm checking to see what likes I've got on social media. I'm checking to see who's messaging me, right? So that's the way I see it. So part of my fixing a person's sleep issues is challenging them to challenge themselves physically more, to engage with the things that protect us, the nature, the light, the movement, the exercise. If all else, I tell people, if all else fails, go out into the garden with a shovel in the morning and don't come in until it gets dark, or the only way you can come in is to eat food, or if it gets dark, just dig in the garden and you will have no problem sleeping that night, right? Your mind won't be in this kind of overstimulated, exhausted state. So I think stress and sleep they're just interwoven there, and so many issues can be resolved. And I imagine sleep like a kind of like a river, and we put all these things in the way of it, and we just have to move these things out of the way, and the sleep will come. The sleep will come. Most people come to me with sleep issues, and they don't. Most of them don't have sleep issues. They have lifestyle choice issues. And when we resolve that, the sleep then comes in. But that does take time.
And it's learning to set up boundaries. I think, gosh, even let's say 20, 25 years ago, we had, AOL email, and you had to sign on and you had to go. Now it's just instant. It just shows up on your phone. You get a beep, in your AirPod, you get a beep on your watch, you get
Yeah.
a beep on your phone. And it's so hard when it's work and you're like, oh, it will only take me like 30 seconds to answer this,
Mhm.
but not realizing what that does to our stress, emotional, that whole side of things. And it's really hard to learn to put things down and set those boundaries of like work is 8 to 5. And unless
Yeah.
it's an emergency it's a little different if you're a business owner too, but I still think you have
Yeah.
to learn to set those boundaries. Um, but like outside of that, sorry, like this is not that important. And learning
Mm.
to not only see it, know it's not important, but also then put it down and let it go.
Yeah.
Because even if you don't address it, sometimes it takes up space in our mind, which again,
Yeah.
adds a
That's
stress.
That's a really good point. You said something there which just, letting go. So sleep is the ultimate act of letting go. We have to let go of the day. Something I struggle with. Well, I have struggled with in the past, letting go of the day. I tell that to my 5-year-old now, when he wants to, oh, daddy, please. Well, I'm like, we have tomorrow. We always have tomorrow for the next adventure. We have to let go of the day. It's time to let go and letting go of what I didn't get done, what I should have got. Like so many people arrived into bed and they're absolutely wired. What this today? I have to take out the bins. I have to email her tomorrow. I have to forgot to take the chicken out of the freezer last night. Oh my God. Right. So it's just about letting go, but letting go of all these things. And I think we need to instruct our minds to do that because if you do fall asleep in that overstimulated state, then your subconscious will wake you up at 4 a.m., 3 a.m. to tell you, oh, don't forget this. Right. So we have to be mindful about that wind down.
Yeah, I know for me, I've just learned for myself that I need about a full hour of wind down at the end of the night.
Mm,
Lights are off, like where it's just quiet. And if something pops into my mind of like, oh, what about, whatever it might be, I just have like I've got a little list on my phone. I write it down on that list because I know in the morning when I'm rested, I'm going to reference that list to say, okay, what are my high priorities today? And so it's like as long as I have somewhere to put that thought that I trust, because that's the key. It's like you've got to
yeah.
trust that you're going to look at
Yeah.
it. Then it's like, boom, I can let it go. There's nothing that I need to do tonight. Is the world going
Mm,
to end if I don't do it right now?
yeah.
Probably not, right?
Mhm.
So I don't work in a life and death field. I work in
Yeah.
physical therapy, so this is outpatient. So everything that we do is not emergent. So learning
Mhm.
how to, I think, triage and say,
Mm,
this right now
yeah.
is actually very time sensitive. If this doesn't happen, like running payroll, okay? Like I have to run it. If I forget to do it,
Mhm.
I the employees need to get paid. So like, and if it's delayed, then that could mess up because then there's a weekend and it's a whole thing, right? I don't want to do that. So there's times where I'm like, oh no, like this is a big one.
Yeah.
And then but the majority of the time, like it's if it happens tomorrow, it's just fine, right? If you
Yeah.
forget to take something out of the freezer tonight, um,
Mm,
you could probably take it out first thing in the morning and be okay. You might just need to frost it a little bit longer, right? So, but that running list that I have, I started that when I would travel. And you would think, oh my goodness, like you've got this early flight, and you're like, oh, did I pack the phone charger? Oh, did I, And so I would leave a piece of paper next to the bed. And then
Yeah.
if I jolted, I would write it down because I knew that was the first thing that I would look at in the morning. And so then I
Mm,
just started implementing that with a list on my phone. And it's like beautiful because like I mean I can just like put it on there and I don't even worry about it. It's gone. I let it go. That's for
yeah.
tomorrow. That's not for today.
Yeah.
And it has helped tremendously with me. I mean, I fall asleep now, no problem. And I don't wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Like I am out at
Yeah.
4 o'clock in the morning.
Great.
uh,
That's so good. That's so good. And it's such a great tip, Dr. Jess, that, to get a little diary or something where you can just take the pressure off tomorrow. You don't have
right.
to write everything. It's just like, what's
Just
in
that
there. You
that
can just,
fleeting thought,
yeah,
like that one
dump it
that you're
out.
like, oh no, right?
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
don't open your computer, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't need to do that. Like I cannot open that computer. If I do,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not going to be the best night's sleep. It's going to take me a while to fall asleep. It's a whole that wind down that I have to do. It has to start all over from scratch again.
Mm.
So it's, I've, like I always say, I live in a glass house and I throw stones. So like I learned experientially with a lot of this.
Yeah, sure. It's the same. I mean, I'm self-employed for the last 12 years. I've worked for myself, and I think that's tougher. I think I've been certainly under more pressure to you don't switch off from it. It's your everything kind of thing. So it's cost me. It's like you, the learning happens when you end up on your back, maybe because
Yeah.
you don't know when to take your foot off the accelerator. So, but I've learned. I have certainly learned the hard way. And children, like Dr. Bowie there, you know too. I mean, I talk about all this work I've done in sleep. I was involved in research on sleep in Ireland and everything. And then a child came along in my life, and I was walking around the bed going, "You should be asleep at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm a sleep expert," and he was laughing away at me. So, um, life happens, doesn't it? And we learn. We hopefully learn with a bit of pain.
Yeah. Hopefully is the key, right? So
Yeah.
So now we're going to go into this perfect world. So we're going to leave, the normal. We're going to go into perfect. And so in this perfect world, what would like this perfect day look like to get really great sleep?
It's brilliant. I'm glad you said that. What would this day look like? Because people tend to ask me, so what should I do to get good sleep? Half an hour before sleep. I'm like, the ship has sailed at that point, right? It's your sleep routine starts from the moment you wake up. So it's kind of first thing in the morning, get up, engage with light at some level, activate. Because when we wake up, we're groggy. We have the adenosine is the sleep chemical. That's the tiredness molecule floating around your system is adenosine. That's why you feel tired in the morning. The fastest way to clear the adenosine is natural full spectrum light. Um, the light and some light exercise, very light exercise, will activate you, will activate the cortisol activation response. And we want the cortisol in the morning. It's part of our physiology as diurnal creatures. We're not nocturnal, is to find calories when it's bright and build shelter and learn and survive and thrive. So, our whole physiology is set up over 24 hours. That's our circadian rhythm, our timer. So in the morning, we get the pulse of cortisol to kick our ass out of bed and get out there and get moving. So engage with outsider light. If it's dark in wintertime, get a light box, plug that in, activate. Tell the brain, inform the suprachiasmatic nucleus, that's the supercomputer for sleep, what time it is. So the first thing is get light. Second thing is be active. The more physically active we are, the better for sleep. I mean, a byproduct, the byproduct of ATP production, of energy production, is the chemical adenosine, the sleep pressure. So the longer you're awake, the more tired you feel. If I keep you awake for 36 hours, you will feel incredibly tired. That's sleep pressure pushing you to sleep. And that sleep pressure is the adenosine, right? So if we're physically active throughout the day, that will really help with sleep as well. The caffeine, be mindful that it takes time for it to process. So have a cutoff point for caffeine. I would say generally kind of early afternoon, after lunch, kind of that's your cutoff threshold. Now, some people have the caffeine gene; they can process caffeine quicker than others. Other people don't have that gene, so they're very poor. So it is personal caffeine, right? But you kind of know how many Americanos it takes for you to be jittery and disrupted, right? Um, so that's the caffeine. Then the awareness, the wherewithal, the cognizance to start to wind down in the evening is important. Kind of, 5, 6 p.m., maybe 7 p.m. Right. The day is kind of done now. It's time to start, winding down. And that's really important for people. The stress, so that's, the stress levels as well, if we can manage those stress levels. And do activities that help that. We want to increase the lovely serotonin levels. So serotonin makes us feel happy in the moment. And much of advice around health can kind of frighten people, or, it can be maybe difficult to do. people might not like the exercise or the healthy salads. And, oh, I don't like that. But the serotonin, like how do we increase serotonin? Well, light is one way. Hugging someone or a pet, hug your pet. If you don't like to hug your partner, hug your pet, right? Your serotonin, you get all gooey and oh, it's lovely, right? That will really help you connect and feel good in the present and help because serotonin is a precursor to the sleep hormone melatonin. So again, and these are the mechanisms that put you to sleep. So yoga, stretching, good food, all that increase serotonin. Align your diet, align your nutrition to help you sleep as well. You can have a strategy that will help you. And then your bedtime routine that to shut off, I call it the reverse snooze button. So instead of hitting the snooze button in the morning, I set an alarm to tell me to get off social media. Okay, so I have a cutoff point. So the alarm goes off. All right, okay, that's the end of social media. You know, um, because let's face it, people bring their phones into the bedroom. People, very few who don't now, right? And I'm okay. I'm cool with that. But with what you're doing, okay, the listening to a podcast, brilliant. Yeah, listening to relaxing sounds, brilliant. Meditation, brilliant. Listening, we need to shut off the visual cortex, right? The visual input we need to stop, especially the scrolling. Okay. Um, your eye mask, your earplugs, your bedroom environment, all of that counts. The letting go of the day, so do a kind of cognitive wind down is important as well. And be patient with these things. So that's my perfect day from the morning, the physical activity, the stress levels, the light, the exercise, the electronics. It's I have it in the acronym of sleep, right? So we have the stress, we have the light, we have the exercise, we have the electronics, and then we have the practice and patience, sleep. So good night.
I love that.
So I think there's so much that is in there, right? I think most everything I was hearing, you don't need to go buy anything, right?
Mm.
There's notifications that you can put on your phone. You already have to eat, so recipes, that's just a matter of looking some stuff up. So a lot of this really, like, other than like if you live in an environment where you don't have as much daylight or it's that time of year, that light,
Yeah,
that's kind of really the only thing that's like a monetary investment. Otherwise, it really is lifestyle changes. And that's
yeah,
actually harder, right? Like,
mm,
because you have to be consistent with it in order
yeah,
for it to work. And
yeah,
I've had so many patients where if they're not sleeping, our number one thing is like, one, it's, their pain is waking them up. So, like, you're not going to heal if you're not sleeping. So I
yeah,
don't care about anything else. I mean, I do, but
mm,
like in this moment,
mm,
like we
Mhm.
have to figure out how to get you sleeping.
yeah,
And you start understanding, well, you actually didn't sleep well before this injury, and now it's even worse. And
mm,
so, how you're setting up, positioning wise and all of that, but then also everything else, it can be a bit overwhelming at once because you're like,
yeah,
so much has to change. Like it
yeah,
does, right? It really does.
yeah, yeah,
And that's okay because you can. Like
yeah.
there's nothing that's stopping you. It's what makes it hard is that it's a habit that's ingrained. And so it's way
Mhm.
easier to just develop a good habit than it is to break a habit and then develop a good habit. And so
Mhm,
it's actual work is the real
mhm.
answer. Um,
It is, it is,
and it's
and
okay.
look, yeah, it is okay. Um, Much of healing that happens within like the repair, the soft tissue repair, the muscle repair, all of that is happening in slow wave sleep because within slow wave sleep we secrete growth hormone. And over our 24 hours, about 70 to 75% of the growth hormone we secrete is secreted during sleep.
Yep.
So the vast majority of the
Hugely important.
healing that's when it's happening.
Yep.
And I mean, our skin repairs, it's like the elixir of youth for us. If we're going to look, there's a reason they call it beauty sleep, right? So I mean, that's when it's happening, right? Slow wave sleep. So like once people start to get that, all right, okay, and also I suppose people will want to reach for, give me a tablet, right? Give me a tablet that just knocks me out, and I'm like, no, listen. It's not a good solution. My father said to me many years ago, I'm not worried about your problem. I'm worried about the solution you're going to use. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
we have to be mindful of the solution here. And there are about 20 different levers that will impact your sleep. That you this is it's frightening, but it's empowering. It's empowering. You can do it. Nobody gets them all right. And it's that kind of desire for instant results too. I mean, I kind of say, look, because I've had people who say, "Oh, I tried that, didn't work." Many times did you try it?
Right.
Like, I mean, you wouldn't go to the gym once and say, "Well, it didn't work. Look at me," right? You would go for 6 weeks and then you do an assessment. So I say the same with sleep. Why would or you wouldn't eat one meal and say, "Well, it's not working." Look at me. So with sleep, and this is the hardest thing to shift, the mind, right?
So
The
hard.
habit, the mind, that like we just go back into that same way, right? So that's where that's where the patience comes in with people. Say, listen, you need to be patient. You stop focusing, stop obsessing about sleep as well. So people get like, will I sleep tonight? Oh, I don't know. Won't I sleep? And then they're lying thinking about sleep before they get to bed. And that's what stops them sleeping, right? So I focus on the process, the results will come. I know they will. I can guarantee you they will because I've worked for 10 years individually with people and I know the sleep will improve. You focus on process and results are not up to you.
I think when you said like the pills, I immediately thought of just how our world is so, we're always looking for, and it's human nature. So it's not that there's something wrong with us, but we're looking for the instant gratification. We want to be able to buy that one thing that's going to make us sleep, that's going to make us lose weight, that's going to make us build muscle. We want to take that pill that just does it for us. And learning that about ourselves, I think, is one of the best ways. And like realizing it and not giving yourself a hard time, but kind of helps with understanding that it's going to take time and it's going to not be an instant change. It's not going to be an instant result. There's what is that saying that nothing good comes easy, or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, it's the consistency that you're looking for, right? So if you actually want to sleep well consistently, if you actually want to, maintain a healthy weight, if you actually want to maintain healthy muscle mass, it's consistency with how you do that. Maintain your stress levels with being able to use your techniques to reframe and de-escalate.
Mm.
It's all lifestyle is the reality of it. And I think that's what makes Dr. Bobbie and I so interested in sleep is because it resonates so much with what we do in our professions in physical
Mm.
therapy, which is a ton of lifestyle, whether it's ergonomics, how you're doing everything matters so much. And there's
Mm.
just a really, really large misconception of how much power we have as the individuals versus the professionals that are in our
Yeah.
lives, right? Or the,
Yeah.
big pharma or whatever. We give so much of our power away to other
Mm.
people or other industries. And
Mhm.
a large part of what we talk about is how can you take back your own power? It's your body to manage, not anybody else's. And so
Yeah.
when you're the driver and you put you first, you're the only one
Mm.
in the world that's going to put you first better than somebody else, right? Because
Mm.
you're
Yeah.
living it. You're
Yeah.
living the consequences of not
Yeah.
making those choices, or, there's going to be some direct results.
Yeah.
And sleep is one of those things. It's not, you can't run a blood test and say, oh, there it is,
Yeah.
lack of vitamin C. So, like it's sleep is not like that. You can't
Yeah.
do an MRI and just say, oh, well, there we go. It's that whatever part of the brain is, it's not that kind of issue. And
Yeah.
so it can be so frustrating because we're used to taking a picture of our pain or taking blood work to figure out what's not going on physiologically well. And we're used to being given a prescription, right? And
Yeah.
so in this scenario, that is not the case. So
Yeah.
that's what makes it so confusing. It's
It does.
really very confusing.
Yeah. And a part of the issue with sleep is this as well, you see. People can suffer a long time and then they get one or two good nights and then they forget completely. about the pain, right? It's like, someone said to me once, I said, I'm not a slow learner. I'm a fast forgetter. You forget about the pain. You forget about the pain and everything's great again. And you just do whatever, you go back to scrolling, you back to drinking alcohol, whatever it may be. And then all of a sudden, boom, you're back to square one again
Yeah.
with it. But it's like I'm a huge advocate of taking responsibility, taking personal responsibility for these things because who else is going to do it? Like you said, it's your body, you have to because no one cares that much. Only, it is about you. So please, people, and if in doubt, it's not complex. It's just about getting moving, getting out there, taking on board the advice, keeping things simple. And it most certainly will things will improve massively, hugely if you get those basics right.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's like number one is I think being empowered and realizing that you do have the ability to do it, and especially something like this without any sort of significant monetary investment. So, I
Mm.
mean, this podcast is free. So, like literally you could just play it and learn from it. That's the whole point of this podcast is to spread information that is helpful and useful and empowering. And the truthful answer is hard, right? It's not easy, and that's how you get the biggest benefit, though.
It is, but you will get like the amount of enthusiasm and empowerment that you will get from it if you go through the hard thing. If you do start to do the difficult thing and you start to get the result, wow, you start getting surges of energy then. You
Yeah,
start feeling so good about yourself. You start feeling so empowered, so youthful, so full of energy. And that's what's going to really drive everything in your life.
everything.
The quality of your relationships with your children, your loved ones, your family, your work, your free time, the joy you find in your life. All of those things will be improved from a good night's sleep, from you taking action. Because oftentimes when we lie awake at night thinking about, if I do this, if I say that, then this will happen, this will happen, this will happen. We're making our mind up about the results. But
Yeah,
again, not up to us. But when you start to do these things, you're truly then empowered.
absolutely. So Tom, if somebody wants to know more about you, right, and they're like, I really would like to have somebody help hold me accountable and help guide me in this because I don't necessarily feel ready to go it alone. How can they reach out to you? What's the best way to do
Sure.
that?
I mean, I have a 12-week program that I put people through. Because sometimes what happens again with the short memory, people come with pain and they want like a 1 hour session, and I'm trying to get 10 years of my experience into 1 hour. And I said, look, you're really much better to work with me over the course of maybe 2 or 3 months here, and follow guide because many people will have tried. Well, I tried magnesium, I tried this, tried CBT, I tried this, didn't work. Worked for a short time and then it stopped working. You know, so I kind of set out a pathway for people. And that the way to find me is you can find me on my website, tomcoleman.ie, or on Instagram, tomcoleman.ie also. And I do work with people on an individual level. So if people need help, I am there and guided by the 12-week program.
That's awesome. And we'll put all of this information in the episode description as well. So there'll be links, but we just want to make sure that everybody knows that you don't have to go it alone. If this is something that you're like, I'm so overwhelmed, this seems like so many changes to make all at once. There's somebody that is very experienced in this to guide you through. And I completely agree. It's just like when I see a patient, like it's not a one and done eval. Right? There's so much learning that needs to happen. And then that accountability of like you implemented it. Okay, now let's talk about how did that go? And you're like, oh, well, okay, cool. Yeah. So it's that accountability of like somebody's gonna be asking you, like, how did it go at home when you tried X, Y, and Z? So you're more likely in the beginning stages of change to be a little bit more accountable when somebody else is helping to hold you accountable. And then it starts becoming more intrinsic where you're holding yourself accountable. But that is part of the stages of change. And I think
Yeah.
recognizing that and being patient with that is really important because it's how you're actually going to get through it versus just constantly starting something but not seeing it through.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I love your approach, the holistic approach. I had physical therapy myself recently, and I am a health scientist and I always looked at all of the different therapies, but I had the most incredible physical therapy ever, and I could have been doing all the breath work, I could have been eating all the food, I could have been doing all of this, right? It would have taken years maybe to achieve the results I got with the physical therapy
Mhm.
in 1 or 2 sessions. So I'm a
Absolutely.
huge advocate. And the therapist said to me, look, he said, have you ever seen those stories about the dogs that have been, abused or something? And you see this little frightened dog, and they take him and they untie him and they wash him and they feed him and they pet him and they give him a lot of love and you know, he doesn't get any talk therapy whatsoever. He gets physical therapy. That's what fixes him. 3 weeks later, he's bounding around the place. So I'm a huge advocate for anything health related, but physical therapy, amazing stuff. So keep up your good work on that.
Oh, absolutely. We're big fans. So if this episode was interesting to you, please share it with somebody that you might have think, you know what, so-and-so was telling me they were struggling, let me share this. So don't keep the information for yourself, share it. That's the whole point, is that we're trying to help everybody, as many people as possible, realize how much power and control they do have in their lives. And make sure to like and follow all the normal stuff so that you get the newest information that comes out each and every week. All right, everybody. Bye.
Thank you so much.